Blessings and welcome forward to Reasonings right here at the Trail Life. I'm your host, Jerome Sage Butler. Let us give thanks for everyone who has been subscribing on the new channel and keeping connections on the old channel and Cedar Media, because that's the way it ought to be. Connections are always eternal. Blessings to Yahuwah, Yehoshua, Divine Elohim. There is a video that I had up on Cedar Media that was taken down, and the Spirit has just led me to continue and to reintroduce that video because it has been of a help to a lot of people. And a lot of people had asked about it. And on a new platform, I thought it was necessary that we should go forward with this new video. So the current offering is on polygamy. Now, the first essence of when we hear about polygamy, especially in the modern context, the idea of a man having multiple sexual partners, the idea of a man being placated around him with the most beautiful, the most attractive, the most endearing of young, energetic, and sexual appealing females. The idea that that makes him a complete male. The idea that that makes him a sense of a power, a sense of a direction of attraction. That man has something together. And hence, this is the idea of polygamy in the modern context, leading on to the orgies and the sexual excitements and overstimulation and such. And this image of polygamy, or the idea of polygamy, is placated to us. And so when the argument comes up, there's a lot of rejection from a lot of people who thinks then that when someone begins to speak about polygamy, what they're talking about is some perverse over-sexualization and over-sexualized view of feminine energy, of females. So there is this uncleanness to some people about it. And then they miss the point. They miss the mark. They miss the argument. The argument is polygamy is rooted in an ancient context, not in a modern context. As one looks at the biblical history, the whole idea of father of nation, mother of nation, the patriarch and the matriarch. Abraham is one of the most famous patriarchs of the Bible, who is a polygamist, as the story goes, clearly defined in biblical history. There is an argument, inference, reference to the end of days, to a time of the end of age, where the word says it shall be 7 women unto 1 man. There is a sound biblical rooting for the information, the essence, the premise, the argument around polygamy. It is not merely an argument about the aggrandizement of masculine ego, sexualizing the female in a certain manner, degrading her. So let's examine the ancient context. Polygamy exists as a way of life in ancient societies. It's not only rooted in patriarchy, it is also rooted in matriarchy. They are quite powerful and famous, historically viable, polyandrous societies. And as a matter of fact, on the continent of Africa, there are still polyandrous rituals within certain society and certain societies that are retaining a matrilineal, a matriarchal view of polygamy. So let us first erode the argument of polygamy being squarely rooted in patriarchy. Because matriarchy, through polyandrous relationships, it is evident that this was an ancient way of life. Now we have evolved out of this ancient way of life into a modern context, wherein the modern context has brought forward monogamy. And the modern context is driven mainly by European societies. Now there are lots of philosophies around why European societies are monogamous and why the argument around procreation and the procreation of one society is around monogamy, driven by European ideology and ways of life. Polygamy in an ancient context, as it relates to Abraham, the father said, "Behold, I make you a father of nations." Now, as it relates to fathers and mothers of nations, polygamy in an ancient context, in an ancient construct, is far more than a self-orienting view of personal ambition and personal satisfaction. It has a much deeper, more rooted essence in the communal, in the community, in the preservation of our collective harmonies, in the preservation of our collective well-beings. Many wars have been stopped, completely stayed, because entire nations have been married into other nations. Because when you say the chief, the head patriarch, the king, wasn't just a king. And this is the histories that we are not promoting and perpetuating. Many of the ancient kings are fathers of the entire nation. Not saying that every single child in the nation belong to the king. I'm saying the strongest genes replicates itself in perpetuity. Strong, mighty man of whole wax powerful. Progeny, generational blessings, directional movement of beings, of energies, the preservation of the vines, the branches, the roots that stretch from eternity into the present. The global family tree evolved out of polygamy, polyandry, polyandrous relationships, polyandrous unions, polygamous unions. Our evolutions, the preservation, the perseverance of our genes is therein maintained. Let's examine that in a modern context. In the modern context, a man with many wives, many women, because it's illegal, right, to marry many women. That is a construct of the European system. But yet still, even within their societies, there are men that cheat and have many families within the same structure of this monogamous system. We are not dishonoring monogamy. We're not saying that in monogamy there is not selflessness. We're not saying that selflessness is rooted in polygamy. We're examining how it is we view polygamy through the eyes of monogamy as how we have been socialized. So monogamy, or the monogamous view of the polygamous person, unclean, dishonorable, unloving, manipulative. In a lot of sense, they cannot see that a single person could truly appreciate the presence of multiple partners who are in harmony within his or her presence. The egocentric male would never consider himself worthy to be in a union where there was another man and he didn't think himself less. If he thinks himself less, then it's okay. He feels that union with the woman who has another mate, as another man, is doing him a favor because she's helping him to maintain his self-confidence, his sense of being a man. So let's examine it a little further. There are many men that have relationship with women that they know for a fact have other partners. There are other men within their lives, sexually, intimately. So let us look at it very carefully. So, polyandry, polygamy as it's brought to us in the patriarchal sense, it's clear. There are women who know that a man has many women. And yet still she will become baby mother number 5, number 4, number 7, sometimes number 8. There is a natural order of the cosmos that psychology, great philosophy, or idealism cannot erase. Polygamy is one such, that it has existed in matriarchal society and patriarchal societies. That is clear and historically evident. There are still rituals that maintain the idea of the polygamous union within modern societies. Within some religious contexts, there's a cap on the amount of women or the amount of partners. But yet still there is an understanding and there is an acceptance that there are room in the existence, in the perception of self, to allow many partners. There are still modern societies within the ancient lands that maintain some amount of respect and honor towards a polyandrous woman. There is a context in which it's understood, but there is still what we call the ritualistic connection to ancient self. It is still there. The idea of mother of nations is still placated somewhere within our internal arguments. It's there, and I can't deny it. The egocentrism of the modern male is hurt by the idea of the woman having another partner if it wasn't again his idea of what was ideal. Because if he thinks himself the king, he says, Alpha I am, she should be subdued and she should be honorable, but she should also be a little bit more quiet, calm, and a little bit more, I would say, humble, almost internal. So he still maintains the power, and the idea of power and control of the family, of the relationship, suggests that there is this humility, this timidity. That's the word I was looking for. A timidity within the woman. But is that the true nature or the full expression of the feminine energy, even within multiple relationships? A woman doesn't lose her dignity, as there would not be the maintenance of those polyandrous rituals in modern Africa. That gives the woman that sense of return to her freedom. Not the control of the religious patriarchal male in the modern context, who wants to define everything, including controlling the female's body, and has taught her likewise to think the same of the male's body. So sexually identified, the idea of polygamy and polygamous unions are squarely rooted in sexual unions. So the selflessness we are talking about is beyond a sexual grudge or jealousy. It's just to accept your identities being born into each other. Because those you copulate with, those you have sex with, your identities begin to be born in each other. They begin to shape your physical, your emotional outlooks and physical being. This is how nations are born. Is it strange that when we refer to the notion of people saying, even the religious and the spiritual context, that we're all brothers and sisters. Haven't we ever questioned where that argument comes from? Well, in ancient societies, it was always known that nations were, in a grand sense, polygamous. And that a lot of the nation were actually brothers and sisters. That's why nations married into nations to stop wars, to keep wars at bay. So when the princess of this nation marries to the prince or princes of nations, or the princesses are brought over to the prince of a nation, that is two nations coming together, uniting for peace, for love, for harmony. Is it a matter of choosing polygamy over monogamy? It is a matter of who you are. It is always a matter of who you are and where you are spiritually. Is it impossible to find selflessness in monogamy? Obviously not. It is very much possible to find selflessness in monogamy. Monogamy is not just the singular view. It is also the sense of saying, there is another person who has the other half of my identity. And in such, when the union happens, there is a release of identity and selflessness is born. Let us be honest about that. Because I know people are in the argument and in the reasoning, and people will say, there's still something lopsided about my understanding of the polygamous unions or the union of monogamy. I do understand, however, that is a choice, that it is a choice, that it is a choice based upon your spirituality, your mental and your emotional outlook. And I do know that it takes great courage, ladies, gentle king, great king and queens, it takes great courage to decide that you will love someone who is loving others in the same context, to see your identity with all the women within the polygamous union. And dare I say king, to realize that all of you as kings is sharing the light and the love of this queen, and to see that your identities are connected in one. Am I saying too much? Am I going too far? Maybe I am. But I know, like I said, that they are polyandrous society, women with many men. Polygamy, not just the idea of man with many wives. Women with many husbands. Brothers and sisters, whatever your path you choose along this life, sexual and emotionally, I say, choose love. Choose it truthfully. Blessings be Yahweh, Yehoshua, Divine Elohim, Divine Christ on your journeys. This has been Jerome Sage Butler at the Tree of Life, just reminding you, be loving, be kind. Remember that you're a gift within your monogamy and your polygamy. Within all these polygamous relationships, you being mother and father of nations, being the great, gracious kings and queens, fathers and mothers of nations, generations you are. So if you choose a polygamous path, choose it in honor, in humility, in kindness, and in love. And if you choose that path of monogamy, choose it in kindness, in truth, and in love. And the Most High will lead you, your offspring, and your mate, and your mates to true harmony, as we experience life as it is divinely intended to be. A most sacred, blessed, and communal experience. Continue to like and subscribe on Cedar Media, YouTube, and Jerome Sage Butler on YouTube. Follow me, Jerome Sage Butler, on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Until next we meet again, blessings and love. This has been Reasonings right here at the Tree of Life.